So, folks, we got new expansion reveal forged in the Barrens, but we also got to look at some new core set cards. There's going to be almost 30 new cards coming in the core set, totally new cards like the one you see behind me. These are, in some cases, re envisioned versions of old characters, it seems, because we got a new Deathwing, a new Ysera, and a new Alexstrasza. Now, I don't think these are replacing the ones you had before. These have different names. They're just new versions and new looks at the same characters. So, of course, we got to review these cards for how impactful we think they might be. So this is Deathwing the Destroyer, a 10 mana 12/12 neutral dragon, battle cry, destroy all other minions, and then discard a card for each destroyed. So basically just like the Deathwing of old, but instead of losing your entire hand every time, this instead is a huge board clear board swing that might not really damage your hand too much. So say your opponent has like 3 crazy minions out there and you need to clear just 3, you're only going to lose 3 cards. That's not really necessarily the end of the world, and often a sacrifice you'd be willing to make to stay alive in a pinch or just swing the board with a giant 12/12. So I think there will be a lot of decks that have a ton of resources in hand anyway and just need more removal that are happy to run this Deathwing. It just makes a lot of sense. It's kind of that Twisting Nether style card. We see cards like this work very, very often. And Deathwing was already, not a good card by any means, but sometimes in a pinch, you felt like you could still play him and end up winning a game. And in this case, he won't really have nearly as much downside or risk. So to me, this one looks really, really strong. It's the kind of effect you need for a 10 drop. It's got dragon synergies, just a big pile of stats. And of course, I love it. I think it's going to be really, really good. So moving on here to the new Ysera the Dreamer. It's still a 9 mana 4/12. That's great. Dragon, of course, and Battle Cry add 1 of each dream card to your hand. So in the past, Ysera was this like really slow engine that would give you cards over time, and you really needed her to live for a while, and you couldn't use any of the cards immediately because it wasn't until end of turn. This totally switches things up. You get all 5 of the cards right away, which is, you never got 5 cards off Ysera in the old days that I can ever remember. Maybe very, very rarely. You'd usually get like 1 max, maybe 2 max, I mean. And now you get all 5. And in fact, one of them, Dream, is a 0 mana card. It's basically a 0 mana sap, or you can use it on friendly minions too, which means you could bounce Ysera right back to hand and play her later. If you wanted to, like if you didn't need the 4/12 body. So that's one cool application right away. Or if you just need the tempo, it allows you to remove something of your opponents, safely playing Ysera, getting all those dream card value cards in hand for later. So you got the big 7/6 dragon, the little 3/5, you got Ysera Awakens, which is the deal 5 damage AoE, and then you got Nightmare, which of course can give you a ton of pressure. So a lot of them are solid cards, and it's just a lot of value, and a lot of decks want value and resource generation. And although this one's expensive at 9 mana, I think because of that dream, it'll still feel playable, and there'll be a lot of windows where you can drop a card like this. Particularly think about decks that either have a lot of life and time, or decks like Druid that just get to 9 mana immediately. It feels like it could be a really good fit in any of those environments. So I think Ysera is another really, really strong card that's gonna see play. And now we have Malygos the Spellweaver. New Malygos here, still 4/12, battle cry. Draw spells until your hand is full. That's crazy. I mean, that's theoretically up to 10 cards drawn in a single card. Instant hand refill. And, it doesn't necessarily have the same immediacy of the other 2 dragons where they can probably do something right away. Very rarely will it work where this leaves you enough mana to make a big play behind it. I mean, there are some instances, think about cards like Ray of Frost that may be rotating, so that's not a perfect example. But cards like that, like little 1 mana stall cards, or even like backstabs and stuff in Rogue, there might still be some ways to do things after this that keep you alive, that give you time. But my God, the kind of value potential you're going to have on future turns because of all those resources, or if you can set up blow up turns like we see in Rogue or in Mage, where you just play a billion spells, it seems like the potential's off the charts, and you're willing to take a bit of a downturn. You'll have time if you can take a game-winning turn next turn because your Malygos drew you absolutely everything you want. There's also just a tutor aspect here where you can get specific spells if you need them, so they're not tucked away in your deck. Think about like Cthulhu cards, for instance. You could just draw all 4 of the Cthulhu pieces and have them and play them over the next couple turns, and there your Cthulhu's ready to go. So, if those are the only spells you're running. So some real interesting like tutor and niche combo potential, some just raw value potential from drawing through your entire deck. It feels like this one is again gonna be pretty crazy. I think it's maybe a little bit more niche than the previous two. I don't think it has quite as much like universal control deck appeal, but I still think there will absolutely be decks that utilize this to great success. So now it's time for some quick reviews. Ysera the Dreamer is a 5-star card. Malygos the Spellweaver is a 5-star card. Deathwing the Destroyer is a 5-star card. And there you go, folks. Review done for these new core set legendary dragons. This is super sick. I love this so much. I'm excited to try out all of these. I think they're going to be great. As you can see, 5-star cards across the board, which is rare indeed. But share your thoughts on these cards. Maybe I'm overrating one. Maybe you think they're not going to be all that good at the end of the day as I flash my green screen there. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for, of course, more card reviews for Forged and the Barons and any other core set cards we get. But until then, thanks much for watching, and until next time, game on.